In Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the middle of the day, a 911 call occurred. A woman had called, but all we could hear through the phone was her talking to someone saying, "You all shouldn't have had this gun." But that was not the only 911 call of the day. After some minutes, a hospital security guard reported several gunshot victims. He said that 3 teenagers pulled up in a van. He said that all of the teenagers were hit, but unfortunately, one of them, the girl, couldn't make it. What could have happened? Detective Jason White and Corporal Nathan Schilling analyzed the 911 calls to get a glimpse of what could have happened. The team gets informed about the victim's name. Her name was Janice Haney, and she was only 17-year-old. It was a possibility that the victim was pregnant. She was just months away from turning 18-year-old. The victim was born and raised in Tulsa with her mother, dad, and 4 siblings. The victim was shot once in the chest. The team believes that it is best if they get divided into groups. Detective Jason White and Detective Chase were about to go to the hospital where the victim and the other witnesses were. Then, Corporal Nathan Schilling and the crime unit will process the residence where they believe the shooting occurred. As the team was trying to figure out what happened, this case was all over the news. The police were calling this a bizarre triple shooting. When the detectives arrive at the crime scene, they find the homeowner and her 9-year-old son, and she agrees to go down to homicide. The detectives get inside the house where the shooting took place and look around for clues. There were drops of blood everywhere. The team found a 9mm shell casing on the kitchen floor. There was also a Glock gun box with a block pistol inside. The only hope for the team now is the homeowner. She must know what happened. On the other hand, Detective Jason White was pulling up to the medical center where the teenagers were being taken care of. Luckily, the man who drove the teenagers to the hospital cooperates with the police and is brought to the homicide, hoping that he will tell the police what happened that night. Detective Jason White arrives at the medical center and introduces himself to the workers. He tells them the reason why they were there. Then, the detectives start to interview one of the shot teenagers. His name was Norris Williams, who was shot in his right hand. The detectives began to ask him about what had happened, but his first response was, "I can't remember." The detective asks him, where was he when the shooting occurred? The boy said he was outside the house, coming from the park. But Detective Jason White knows that the boy was lying and tells him that the team already knows that he was home. The detectives didn't want to hear about this boy's lies. Then, the boy starts talking, saying that all he remembers was him coming from the park and then going to the house. So, now he began to admit that he was inside the house when the shooting happened. Detective Jason White asks who was at that moment at the home when the shooting took place. But, the boy said that there were many people and he didn't remember much. The detective asks the boy about his age and he says that he is only 20-year-old. The boy said they were sitting and then the gun went off. The detective asks if that was an accident and the boy believes so. They asked him who had got shot and he said that his pregnant girlfriend got shot. His girlfriend was 3 months pregnant. The detectives asked him if they had been arguing at that moment, but the boy said that they had never argued. They asked him who was holding the gun when the shooting happened, but he said he didn't remember. Since this witness wasn't a huge help to the case, the team started to interview the other witness. Another boy had been shot in the leg. The boy says they were walking from the park when they suddenly heard gunshots. But the team was telling him that the shooting had happened inside since they saw the evidence, the blood. The boy said he was telling what he heard and that he didn't shoot anybody. Then, he admitted that he was inside the house too, saying that somebody was playing with the gun. Then, the boy said that the gun had gone off. He said that all 3 bullets went through all the 3 teenagers. But he didn't know who was playing with the gun. He said that he didn't know who did it. So, the 2 witnesses both kept saying that they didn't see who was playing with the gun. This seemed like a lie. The team doesn't know what to believe. They don't know if this was an accident or someone had intentionally shot them. Either way, the witnesses weren't saying much. But luckily, Detective Jason White still has a witness to ask questions to. The house owner who had called 911 was ready to tell what she knew. The woman began to talk, saying that she was in the garage when the teenagers came into the house. She said that her son, a 20-year-old, was staying in his bedroom with the 3 teenagers that had been shot. They were hanging out in the room, but the door wasn't closed. She said that her 9-year-old son was in that room too. The woman said it didn't even go 5 minutes when she heard a noise. She noted that it wasn't that kind of a big noise to make her think something might be wrong. But, when she went to the corner, she said that she saw the 3 teenagers lying on the ground. They all had been shot. But, one of the boys had the girl in his hands. She said that her 9-year-old boy told her they were playing with the spinner. Her 9-year-old was in shock. The woman said that the boy holding the girl was dragging her through the hallway. The detectives didn't know which boy she was talking about, so they showed her a picture of the victim's boyfriend. The woman confirmed that that boy was the one who was dragging the victim. Then, her oldest son began to take the teenagers, put them in the van, and drive them to the nearest hospital. The detective tells the woman that the two boys that were shot were fine and alive, but the pregnant girl, unfortunately, didn't make it. The woman didn't seem to believe it. She was crying and saying that she didn't even know that girl's name. The 911 caller had said enough. Now it was time to interview her son. The victim's friend. The team was hoping that this boy had seen who had pulled the trigger, who was the one that was playing with the gun. The boy started talking, saying that he had heard a gunshot. The boy was saying that he was in the hallway. The boy said that he heard his friend saying that they were shot and needed to go to the hospital, so that's when he drove them. The boy said that he didn't see who pulled the trigger. The team told him that they had found a gun in his room. The boy said that it was his gun. The story didn't match because the boy said he wasn't in the room, while everyone said they were all in the room. The team wanted to interview the 9-year-old boy too. They put him in the interview room. The detective started joking around and playing with the kid. He didn't want to scare him. The little boy said that a guy was playing with a gun, but he didn't know his name. The detective tells the little boy to describe the guy holding the gun. The little boy said that that guy had big curly hair. The little boy was describing the victim's boyfriend. The team is happy that they have the little boy as a witness. Kids are the best witnesses because they don't have these preconceived ideas of what the police would want to hear. The little boy said that the victim's boyfriend had a gun and pointed it at his girlfriend. His girlfriend told him to not point the gun at him. The little boy said that the guy was holding the gun pointing at his girlfriend when suddenly it fell and hit him and then his girlfriend. The little boy said that the other guy had a gun and shot himself. The team was confused about why would someone shoot themselves. It was time for the detectives to interview the victim's boyfriend again. He was still in the hospital, but the team needed to take him back to the headquarters. Before the team got the chance to ask him questions, the boy wondered if there was a chance that he could go home that day. But the team tells him that probably not. Since he can't go home, the boy says that he needs to have a lawyer. He disagreed with talking without a lawyer. Then, the boy asks if he could make a phone call. The boy takes the phone and calls his mother crying, telling her that his girlfriend has passed away. He kept saying that he was sorry. This might have been a game gone wrong, but everything comes with consequences. An innocent soul had gone away. The team charges Norris Williams with first-degree manslaughter. The detective tells Norris if there was anything that he had to say to his parents. He said to say to them that I was sorry. This case is up to the district attorney's office and, potentially, a jury down the line that will come to a decision and determine what will happen to Norris Williams. Detective Jason White tells the victim's family about what had happened and how their daughter died. It's probably the most challenging part of this job. But the family deserves to know. Justice is what stands in the end. Norris Williams pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and possession of a firearm. He is going to spend 10 years of his life in prison. Case, all in the family. In Mobile, Alabama, in the middle of a random day, a 911 call occurred. A man had called for help, saying that on Louise Drive, some guys were arguing with each other when suddenly one of them shot the other 5 or 6 times. The caller tried to describe the guys saying that they were black. The victim was lying on a porch. The caller said that the shooter shot through the house. What could have happened? The team arrives at the crime scene without wasting any time and sees a man shot to death lying on the porch of a house. There were a lot of people there. A woman was crying. As Detective Jermaine Rogers came closer to the victim, one of the men there said that he knew for sure who the victim was. He said that the victim's name was Joshua Baker. The victim was only 25-year-old and was born and raised in Mobile. Joshua Baker worked as a mechanic. He, unfortunately, leaves behind his family. He was a father, leaving behind his wife and 3 children, including a 2-month-old boy. He will for sure get missed. Since the team got informed about who the victim was, they looked at the victim's body. It looked like the victim was shot 6 times. He was shot in his leg, arm, and his torso. The detectives found a lot of shell casings as they were looking around. They find 7 9mm casings near his body. As the team was doing their job, they heard a man crying and shouting, "That's my brother," towards the victim. As sad as it is, the team is happy to know that there are a lot of witnesses who might see and hear about what happened. The detective begins to ask them some questions. One of the witnesses said that the person was shooting from the back of the car, saying that the shooter was sitting in the back. But the team was confused because the story of the 2 witnesses didn't match each other. One of the witnesses said that the back window came down and then he started shooting. But then someone had said that that person had gone out of the car. But the yard was full of castings, so the person had to get out of the vehicle. There were a lot of witnesses, but it seemed like everyone was telling a different story. To see who was lying and who was not, Detective Jermaine Rogers believes that it is for the best if they take the witnesses down to the headquarters and interview them one by one. So, that's what the team does. Detective Jermaine Rogers takes off from the crime scene and puts the witnesses in different rooms. The first to get questioned was a boy. Detective Jermaine Rogers asks him if he was a friend of a victim's relative. The boy said that they were just friends and that he had spent the night with them. The detective asks him about what had happened. The boy starts telling his side of the story, saying that it had gotten daylight and he woke up. The witness said he had woken up and heard everyone saying, "Josh," outside. He said that Josh came into the house and he looked like he was looking for someone. Then, he said that after some minutes, Josh went outside. And that's when the witness said that he heard like someone was arguing. Someone was yelling. Then, he said that he listened to a lot of gunshots. The witness said he was afraid, ran to his room, got under his bed, and stayed there. The witness said he was worried that the shooter would come inside the house and kill everyone. Then, he said that he got out of under the bed after some time and went outside to see what had happened. The witness said that he saw that Josh had died. Detective Jermaine Roberts asks the witness if he knows who shot Josh. But the witness was saying that he didn't see who shot him. He wasn't outside when the shooting happened. He said that nobody was out besides Josh. Detective Jermaine Roberts asked him if he was sure that he didn't see anyone, and the witness said that he was sure. As Detective Jermaine Roberts and Detective Barton interviewed the witnesses, the team got an important call. A friend of the victim had called and said that she had important information about what had happened. So, the team decides to go and talk to her without wasting any time. Every second matters. The team arrives at the location where the woman had to send them to meet and talk. The woman doesn't hesitate and begins to tell her side of the story. The woman said that she and Josh were just sitting and spending time together that night. She said that Josh's phone was constantly ringing as they were staying together. Then, Josh picked up the phone and one of his friends had a video called him. The woman said that, when Josh picked up the phone, she saw that the man on that video was spitting out blood and they both thought that he might have gotten shot. The woman said Josh got so worried and kept asking him what had happened. The man said that he had lost control of his car and had been in an accident with a friend. The detective asks for that friend's name and the woman says that it's Twan. She knows him by that name and doesn't know if it's his real name or a nickname. The woman said that they had gotten into an accident while driving Twan's girlfriend's car. She said that the man said that Twan ran out of the vehicle as soon as the vehicle crashed. The woman said that Twan took the man's gun as payback because the man had wrecked his girlfriend's car. Then, Josh said to his friend that he would get the gun from him. But, the team couldn't understand why Josh felt like it was his responsibility to go and get his gun. But, the woman said that Josh was a very respectful man and never had a problem with anyone. Then, Josh called Twan and spoke with him. The woman said that the call was on speaker and she could hear everything they talked about. She said that Josh said to Twan that he would get his friend's stuff back. But Twan was saying that he would not give it back. The woman said that Twan sounded angry on the phone about the fact that his friend had wrecked his girlfriend's car. The woman says that Twan is for sure the one who shot Josh. She said that the man, Twan, and Josh were cousins. The team gets back to the headquarters because they still have some witnesses to question. The next one was a cousin of Josh. The detectives get into the room where the girl was held and ask her who she was with when the shooting happened. The girl said that she was with her grandmother and her mother. She said that Josh had just arrived and was sitting on the porch when suddenly a car came closer to the house. She said that the car stopped for a minute and then the window car got rolled down. She said that a man with a hat was driving the car and then he pulled the gun and shot Josh. Then, the girl said that she had gone inside her house because she was scared. But, the team could sense that she was lying. The shell castings looked like they were fired outside of the car. So, the detective tells her that she needs to be honest and precisely tell what happened. The girl seemed to change her mind and began to retell the story. She said she was sitting on the porch and the car had come. She said that a man got out of the back seat. She said that Josh started talking to that man, to his cousin. And she said that the suspect had just started shooting. The detective asks her who that man was. She said it was her cousin, but she wasn't raised to tell on her cousin. She said that she couldn't pick a side because both of them were her cousins. But, the detectives got her to talk and she said that the man who shot Josh was named Antwin. The detectives get out of the room and decide to search for this guy named Antwin. They found information about him. Antwin Williams was a 26-year-old black male who had previous convictions for robbery and second-degree assault. Antwin also had 2 active warrants. Detective Barton finds Antwin's recent address and they go out immediately to see if they can find him. The team believes that Antwin is a very dangerous guy, so they need to have the whole team be careful. The team arrives at the location they had found and knocks on the door. A person answers and tells them that Antwin had left on foot some minutes ago. Since the suspect left on foot, the team believes he could be somewhere near that area. He couldn't go too far. There were a lot of abandoned houses around that area, so the team began to search one by one. As they were searching, they found the suspect. They found Antwin. The team was happy than ever. They take Antwin into custody. The team heads back to the office and puts the suspect in the interview room. Antwin was lying on the ground. The detective goes closer to him and asks if he is alright or needs medical care. He looked tired and could barely stand on his feet. He looked like he hadn't slept for days. The team couldn't tell if Antwin was on drugs or just tired. The detectives begin to ask him questions, but he doesn't even remember that he was in a car accident. Then, the detectives ask him about the shooting, but he acts like he doesn't know anything. Antwin was asking if he could go home, but the team said that there was no chance that he would go home. To jail, maybe. Antwin disagreed with telling his side of the story, but this was just another piece of evidence that he was the one who shot his cousin. Antwin was charged with murder. It is crazy to think that he killed his cousin in broad daylight.